Hello, everybody. Welcome back to a little Jays talk. Today, we are going to be going over the matchup between the Baltimore Orioles and the Toronto Blue Jays in this opening series. And we're going to make a couple fun predictions here on how we think things are going to go. So, before I get into it, we're just going to pop up onto ESPN here and have a look at the probable starters that are given. It'll help us make our guesses in a minute here. Opening game, Jose Barrios versus Zach Eflin. Game number 2, Kevin Gausman versus Charlie Morton. And then you'll see that they haven't filled out games number 3 and game number 4 yet for Baltimore Orioles. They haven't determined their starters yet. So what we'll do there is we'll go Max Scherzer up against number 3 on their depth chart that I'll get into in a minute. And then Chris Bassett against number 4 in their depth chart. So with that out of the way, let's do a quick recap here on what we're dealing with. We'll go over the lineup first for Baltimore. Cowser, Rutschman, Westberg, O'Hearn, O'Neill, Mountcastle, Mullins, Urias, and Holiday. Now, Holiday's playing shortstop. Why is that? Well, if I scroll down here and I have a look at their injuries, Gunnar Henderson is not going to be playing this series, so that's kind of a big win for the Blue Jays. I hope Gunnar Henderson doesn't miss too much time. I hope he's back playing and all that. He's a very exciting player, one of the best players in the game. But while he's up against the Blue Jays, I prefer he sits out. Getting to the rotation, as we already touched on, Zach Eflin, Charlie Morton will go 1-2. I have a feeling we'll see Cade Povich, even though he's listed as number 5 here. I have a feeling we'll see him because he just carved up the Blue Jays in spring training. But you know what? Just for simplicity's sake, I will stick with SP3 and SP4, Dean Kramer and Sagano as their Games 3 and Game 4 starters, because that's what Fangraphs has. So now we'll go over and do the Blue Jays lineup. Bo Bichette, Vladdy Guerrero Jr., Anthony Santander, Jimenez, Kirk, Springer, Rodin, Clement, Nathan Lucas, and starting rotation, as we already touched on, Barrios, Gausman, Bassett, and Francis. The Blue Jays have actually announced that Scherzer will be game number 3, and then Bassett will be number 4, followed by Francis number 5. I really like that setup, and I know people might be thinking it doesn't really matter, but to me it actually does. I'm glad Barrios got the opening day start. I'm glad Gausman's going after him. We should get 2 long starts to start the year. You know, they'll probably be up in the 80s to 90 pitches. They should get us 6+ innings each. Pretty easy on the bullpen if all things go well. And then Max Scherzer being a bit of a wild card there. He's been having trouble with that thumb. And just in case, I kind of like him being in the middle at number 3 in case we have to dip into a Yariel Rodriguez bullpen type day. And then hopefully Bassett and Francis can gut out some innings on the back end of that should things go wrong. So yeah, I do like Scherzer being bumped in the middle there where there's kind of a buffer on either side, hopefully, on innings pitched to save the bullpen. That's my thought anyways. None of that may come true. But yeah, bullpens, super hard to predict going into a year. That's why I don't talk about them too much. Obviously, we like the Blue Jays bullpen on paper, at least, 4 or 5 of them we feel pretty good about. And then there's a couple that you feel a little bit iffy about. I'm sure that's the same with how, the Orioles fans are feeling right now. I'm sure they love Batista. Dominguez has some real upside. Cano's been good. Soto's been good. A lot of these guys have been good, and they've also been inconsistent in the past as well. And then I'm sure there's a couple guys that those fans are going, eek, I wish we didn't have these guys here. That's just kind of the way it goes. But I'll flip back here. So what I'd like to do for my predictions is I'll keep it pretty straightforward. I won't try to predict scores or anything like that. Barrios, I think, is a better matchup against the Orioles. I know they've really gone left-handed heavy in the past against him. And as Santander, when he came over, he said Barrios didn't pitch them inside enough, and he was a very comfortable at-bat for their lineup. So I think that that's something Barrios is going to take into account here. And they're also a lot more right-handed heavy than they have been in the past, especially with Gunnar Henderson out. I know Holiday replaces him, but then that means a righty goes in at second base, and I believe it was Westberg. So yeah, they are getting a little bit more right-handed in Baltimore than they have been in previous years. And I just have a lot of faith in Jose Barrios, especially on opening day. Zach Eflin is a good pitcher, but I think we can get to him enough to where the Blue Jays' new look lineup can put up, 4 or 5 runs on the starting pitcher and ultimately get the victory. On the Friday game, Apple TV, unfortunately, I will be watching it though. Gausman versus Charlie Morton. This one, if we can't win this game, I don't know what we're doing this year. I don't want to jump to conclusions off of game number 2 of a season, but I mean, we're throwing our supposed co-ace out there, Kevin Gausman, and Charlie Morton's 40 plus years old. I respect him a lot. He's been a good pitcher in the past, but this is one of those games where, a win in April is just as valuable as a win any time in the year, and you got to win this one. So I'm going to say 2-0 Blue Jays to start. The Scherzer start, like I say, I have a sneaking suspicion that's going to be a Povich start, but to stick with their lineup, I'll flip back over here and have a quick look. So that would mean Dean Kramer. I'm not a huge Dean Kramer guy. I don't think he's fantastic. He's also not bad either, though. But this is a game where I can just see Scherzer's health being a factor. If he's healthy and goes, 6 or 7 innings, 80 plus pitches, I like our odds, but that's just a big if for me based on how spring training went. And that's a game where I'll give it to the Orioles and say that they break through and get their first dub of the season. Game number 4, we'll call it Sagano versus Bassett. I love that matchup. Bassett's looked great this spring. I think he's a little bit, PO'd from last year, the way that his season went, the way the team season went. And I think he's going to be very motivated to come out and put his best foot forward. And I think ultimately he does pitch us to victory on that Sunday. Some of the keys to this, offensively speaking, I'm going to flip over to our lineup for a minute here. And, Bo Bichette, I think, is just going to be on a rampage this year. I'm really expecting, truly expecting big things out of Bo Bichette this year. Vladdy Guerrero Jr., I think he's going to be fantastic. Santander, I think he's going to have a bit of a revenge game going on here against his former team that was unwilling to pay him. And the rest of the lineup is just pretty good, to be honest with you. I love Andres Gimenez. Maybe not in the 4 spot. I wish they could maybe shuffle this down 1, but the 4 spot isn't what it used to be. It's not really a cleanup hitter anymore. As you can see, guys like Vladdy Guerrero and Santander being up in the 2-3, Bichette up in the 1. The league is more just putting your best hitters at the top and getting them up to the plate as often as possible, rather than the old school cleanup hitter setup. Jimenez batting 4th. He's kind of like your second leadoff hitter. And with his speed and the stolen bases and just his running ability, I really like putting a guy like Alejandro Kirk behind him and staying out of those double plays. And management has commented on that as well. And I would almost rather see an Ernie Clement in the 6th spot than I would George Springer, and then followed by Alan Roden. And the reason why is I just like the idea of, along the Kirk mold, a lot of contact, a lot of swing, and a lot of hit and run possibilities, gappers, things like that. And I just think having Jimenez on base for those 2 hitters would be nice. But you know what? It's early days. There's going to be a lot of shuffling coming and going. I really think this offense is going to click, and it's going to score enough against this starting pitching staff of the Orioles to where I think we'll take 3 out of 4. That's really my differentiator there, is just the starting pitching quality that the Orioles have, and some of these lineups that we can throw out there that I think are going to put up enough runs. I don't think either team's going to blow the doors off, although if I had to pick, I do think that the Orioles lineup is more capable of those big eruptions than we are. I just think our starting pitching is good enough to keep them in line, and I like the health and overall quality of our bullpen to start the year. If we start having injuries or anything like that, that's an entirely different question. But I feel really good about Jimmy Garcia, Jeff Hoffman, Chad Green, Nick Sandlin, I'm even a pretty big fan of. So I think in this opening day series, them missing Gunnar Henderson and us having full health is really going to play into our favor. And ultimately, I think that we take 3 out of 4 to start the season and ride the high vibes going into Washington. Let me know what you guys think below. And by all means, if you like the content, like and subscribe. Feel free to comment. I like interacting with you guys. We'll talk to you later, all right? And have a good one. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.